Hello, and thank you for joining me again today on the Finding Hope After Loss podcast. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can really help the show reach more loss and infertility families by taking a moment to leave a positive review or rating on Apple or Spotify. Also, check us out on Patreon for exclusive bonus content. Just go to patreon.com/Finding Hope After Loss. You can also check out more information about the episode in the show notes at journeyforjasmine.com. Today, I am talking with Stephanie, who is the mother of 6 children. In this episode, she shares her story of loss, healing, and the emotional complexities that come with being a mother after stillbirth. In 2023, after a healthy and uneventful pregnancy, Stephanie lost her daughter, Maylene, at 40 weeks and 1 day. Stephanie opens up about navigating the grief of stillbirth, the journey of welcoming her rainbow baby, and the struggles she went through postpartum. Hello, everyone. Today I am here with Stephanie. Stephanie, can you tell us a little about yourself?
Yes, hi. My name is Stephanie Rose. I am 35. I am a mother of 6. I have 5 living children and I have 1 sleeping baby. She's my stillborn daughter. I live on the eastern shore of Virginia, close to a little island called Chincoteague. It's a fun little place. We have a yearly tradition where our ponies swim from Assateague to Chincoteague. So it's a fun town to grow up in and to raise a family. I have recently started crocheting, so I have my own little mission where I crochet keepsakes for lost families. And when I'm not doing that, I'm hanging out with my children and I work remote, so working full time too. And that's just a little about me.
So definitely busy.
Yes, absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
actually was super excited when I saw your address, like when doing the rainbow skirt, because my mom, she loves horses.
Yeah.
So she's always told me about that island and how like she would love to visit there one day. So I was like, this is so cool. Like there's somebody who is actually from there.
Oh wow, that's so fun. Yeah, so sometimes people know because of like the Misty book, but or if they're like really into horses, because we have a special breed of pony, and because we're so remote, that line really hasn't bred with any other horses, so it's been maintained. But it's super cool. My husband comes from their family. They're called saltwater cowboys. So they're the ones that ride horses to help the ponies cross from Assateague to Chincoteague.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's really cool. But it's if you don't, nobody really knows about this area of Virginia unless you kind of know about Chincoteague. So whenever I say we're from Virginia, people always think like we call it mainland, but it's actually closer, it's actually more attached to Maryland than the actual state of Virginia. But
Well, I learned a lot about Virginia today.
yes, yeah, it's a lot of fun. So anytime you want to visit, we've got a place.
Oh, I'm sure that we would love to take you up on that. I will. I mentioned it to my mom, and she's like, "You know somebody there?"
Yes, pony penning is in July, so that's a lot of fun. We do a carnival and then, we have a lot of like obviously tourists for that. So they usually swim over in the beginning of July and then they go for auction and you can like purchase a pony. But when you purchase some of them you can actually keep, but a lot of them you just purchase to fund the pony living in the wild, which is I love because then they get to stay in like their natural habitat with their family and then they swim back at the end of July.
That is, yeah, that's so cool. Thanks for sharing all that.
Yeah.
So, do you mind sharing a little bit about your last story?
Yeah, so I actually have never experienced infertility until I had this stillbirth, and it was a really shocking, I guess. I guess they're all shocking, but where we hadn't had any like previous losses and all of my pregnancies were healthy and resulted in a living child, my OB and my midwife weren't really looking for anything. So when it happened and it was so sudden that it was just devastating in that nature. I didn't really have any warning signs. She the night before I actually did my kick counts and she kicked really well, did 10 kicks in her usual like 10 to 15 minutes. Went to bed around like midnight. She did at 11 a.m. And then at 5 o'clock in the morning, I like woke up like with a start and was just like this, I feel really weird. And I even like woke my husband up and I was like, I don't feel her. I didn't know she was a girl at the time. So just like I told my husband, I was like, this is really weird. Baby usually moves a ton. Like I feel her all day. She's one of like the only pregnancy where I felt baby moving really early. Like like 13, 14 weeks, I could feel her. And she moved consistently all day, very active. So it woke me up from my sleep when like noticed that she wasn't moving. But you kind of, because we never had an issue before, because I never really did the research before, I just, you kind of like, no, maybe she's just really asleep. But by like 9 o'clock in the morning, where she hadn't even like hiccuped, she hadn't done anything. I told my husband, I was like, I think something's wrong. We should go to the hospital. So he came home from work and I didn't, my brain didn't go to like, oh, she's gone. It was just like, something's really wrong. So I'm going to take my hospital bag because even if she's fine, I'm not going to let them send me home. It was a day after her due date. So I'm 40 weeks and one day. It was like, I'm just going to tell them, like, look, we've had a scare. Let's just induce and she's ready. So I brought my bag and everything. And when we got to the hospital, because it's a small town, we actually knew personally a lot of the staff that work there. So one of the nurses that was trying to find the heartbeat actually worked with my husband when he first started working when he was 15. So she's known our family a long time and she was really composed, but I could like after, at that size and that late in the pregnancy, it doesn't take that long to find a heartbeat. So if they're not finding it, usually it's that it's not there. So after about like 15 minutes, she was like, you need to call the doctor. So my midwife was on call. She came in and immediately she put the wand to my belly and like started tearing up. And she was like, I'm so sorry. She's like, there's no heartbeat. And she was like, she's like, I have to get the OB because she's the midwife to confirm. She's like, but I like, even if I didn't, I'm going to, like, maybe I'm hoping I'm wrong. Like, and so she walked out. He came in and yeah, immediately confirmed. And it was just, it's like earth shattering. And he bent down and hugged me, and we like all cried because she was gone. And then they gave me the option. They're like, "Do you want to go home? Do you want to come back?" And it was like, "We're already here." Hindsight's 2020. It's like I wish I had like thought for a second. You can't think.
Yeah.
All of it's happening so fast and you're just so devastated. But I didn't have anything for like keepsakes. So but I was like, I'm not going home. And I'm glad I didn't because at the same time, like the sooner you get baby out from when you realize that baby has passed, the more preserved baby is. So she looked really good when she came out. If I can just find a silver lining, like she looked just perfect. But anyways, so the way it happened is I had, I had a midwife. So I had originally planned on a natural birth, on no medicine, not limited intervention, and my midwife was very on board with that. She's very excited about that. But with all of this, she was like, you should just do the epidural and try to make this as, physically painless as possible. Which I agreed. It's like, I avoided the epidural for the sake of the baby, but there's no point in that now at this point. So I did the epidural, but as they started, with the Pitocin and all of that, I started bleeding really heavily. So they were worried that I was hemorrhaging, and I'm a Jehovah's Witness, so I don't accept blood transfusions. So they immediately said we got to do a C-section, and they took me away. They told my husband he can be in the room, but because of not taking blood transfusions, they made a quick call of putting me to sleep to do the C-section just in case anything happened. They would be able to, perform the interventions faster. So they put me to sleep. My midwife stayed with me the whole time. She held my hand and I woke up and there she was. She was perfect. That's when I found out. It was actually, I think I surprised the anesthesiologist because in waking me up, he was like, "Hey, do you know who you are?" And I immediately was like, "Is my baby alive?" You know how you kind of hope. You kind of hope you're
Yeah.
wrong. when you actually give birth, you kind of hope like they were wrong and magically here's your baby alive. So I was like, is my baby alive? And then he kind of, so I think he thought like, oh, she's still kind of loopy. And then I was like, is it a girl or is it a boy? How much did she weigh? Like, how much did the baby weigh? And so he was like, okay, I can see you're okay. I'm gonna go get the doctor. And so then the doctor came in, told me everything. So like, as moms do, is like I immediately knew where I was when I went to sleep, and I wake up, knew where I was, and was just trying to get to my baby. So that's when I found out that she was a girl. And this is the first time my husband named our child by himself. All the other babies, we were together, so we kind of like we had our picks, but we decided together. But Maylene was fully named by my husband, which I love. And she was named after our favorite band, and Priscilla is his grandmother's name. So they took me back to the room. I got to like hold her and be with her, and we were with her for 3 days in the hospital. We got some beautiful pictures. Rachel's gift, the hospital had partnered with them, so we got some nice keepsakes from them. And I had a doula photographer, so she was there taking pictures of us doing the keepsakes and like just the whole story. And then my husband stayed with me the whole time. My mom was here watching my other children. We had my other children come. My husband and I felt that his name is Logan. We felt that it was important for the kids to meet their sister, because they had been hearing all about her, and with obviously a part of our family and part of the pregnancy as well. So we felt it was very important for them to come and see their sister. And we decided at like almost immediately that she was going to be talked about and included. We're not the kind to, I've never been the kind to just sweep things under the rug. I've always been like, we should talk about stuff and we should address things. So that's kind of how that's not kind of, that's exactly how we've handled Maylene. Like, so we had the kids meet her, we had pictures with her and the kids so that we would all be together in a picture. And we've just, we read them the books that we got from Rachel's Gifts where it talks about losing a sibling. And we've just kept them in the grief process and acknowledged their grief in the way that it displays itself. And we actually got them in therapy and all of that too, just to help. But so we got to spend some time with her in the hospital, and because we are a small town, we we actually were able to we picked a funeral home in our small town. It's actually the funeral home that handled my husband's father. His dad passed away when he was 3. So the director of that funeral home, actually came to the hospital. She knows our family very well, and oh man, everyone was so loving. Everyone was so loving and caring. It was so, we just had it from the worst experience. We had the best people around us and the best experience. So she came into the hospital, and she came in and she like apologized. She's like, I'm sorry, I'm not dressed appropriately. She was like in like a spring dress, which I love because we just don't do black for funerals. Like we're Christians, so we have a hope. We have a hope we're going to see our loved ones again. So we don't, we're not solemn in that regard when it comes to funerals. So I just love that. I know she probably felt uncomfortable because she mentioned it, but it was like, this is nice. It's like a family friend in a warm outfit with a blanket. She came and she carried our baby out in a blanket, and she carried our baby straight we decided to have her cremated and to stay with us just so that we could always have her, not have to worry about if we move or if things change or anything like that. So she carried our baby and handled our baby right into the very end, so that it kind of just felt like Maylene was loved her whole life up until she was cremated. And so then obviously when they took her, that's when we checked out. And again, the hospital was so great, but that's her story. We came home and just have been trying to live our life with her as much as possible.
I love how much love that surrounded you guys, though. I mean, it seems like every single person that worked with you was supportive.
Yes, very, very supportive. I'm so grateful for it. Wrote an amazing review for the hospital because it really did feel like family. We felt acknowledged. We felt, and we, it's, I mean, I feel for people because you get some hospitals that's very, I guess, I don't know the term. It's very disconnected and disassociated with the experience. But my midwife and my OB, they held my baby. They took pictures with us. The nurses, all of them came in to hug us and to see her. They didn't, sometimes in certain hospitals, they have to like charge you if they do certain things. We had an amazing nurse. Her name is Leslie, who like she bathed my baby and took pictures of that and got a lock of hair for us. She just like went above and beyond. She was so loving, a real angel. And even down to the funeral home with the way that they handled that, it was just so loving. And it's so important to have that when you lose a baby. So yes, so grateful for that. Even to the tiniest things, the nurse that did my discharge, you know how they go through that routine where they say like what you can and cannot do.
Hmm.
She she gets to that part where she says you're not supposed to lift anything heavier than your baby. That's usually what they say, usually because you're leaving with a baby. And she said, you're not, please don't lift anything heavier than 10 pounds. And it was like even in the tiniest things, like you could tell that they had thought like I care so much about this person that I just want to be of comfort in one way or another. And it was just even the little things like that, we were just so supported. It was such a godsend. I'm so grateful.
All doctors and nurses need to be like that.
Agreed. When I hear the stories, it's so upsetting. Even especially because that's in this country with the large amount of infertility issues and stillbirths and all of that, like how have you not had this experience? You know what I mean? Where you can be like, I don't know how to handle that. That's never happened to me. It's impossible. So for them, to me, it's just like, how is it you don't know? How is it that's not part of training when it's a very large part of pregnancy?
Well, yeah, and especially since, I mean, you said the hospital you went to was a smaller hospital, so and even they like knew how to handle it. So you would think that especially like larger hospitals and ones
Yeah.
who saw it more often would get a grip and have a handle on it.
Yes, yes. And then the other thing is, it's like, I just, even if you've had no training, it's always been so upsetting and shocking that someone will have more sympathy when you mention how you've had a pet die. Not that that's not devastating, it is. But how is it that people will have more compassion for an animal than their own patient right in front of them, like experiencing something so awful and devastating as losing a child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it almost seems like it's not, I don't know if this is the right word, but like it's not acceptable to
Yeah.
talk about the loss. So like you can't show, I don't know how to like describe what I'm trying to say, but it's,
Yeah.
just kind of goes along with it being a taboo thing to talk about and all that. So they want
Yeah.
to just pretend it doesn't exist or something.
Yes. Yeah, and I do feel like our generation is kind of coming out of that a little bit with how we're handling mental health now. So I get that some of the older generation might struggle because they were taught to just sweep it under the rug or not acknowledge it or just move on. But at the same time, it's like you're in birth work and that this is part of birth work.
Exactly.
Yeah, and you're in healthcare. Even if you're not in birth work, you're in healthcare. You've seen people die at the hospital. Like so that yeah, it's like I don't know why there's not more training on it in school or at least when they're doing their residency because it should be.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I feel like you would at least have to have some kind of training on if a patient dies in
Yeah.
general. So how is it different the age
Yeah.
of the patient?
Yes. Or breaking the news about getting an incurable disease or some, just all that stuff that I mean, if you want to be in the field, that's part of the field. So, yeah, I there's hoping that with all of this stuff, like with what you're doing, it's just so amazing that more and more people in the healthcare learn and they start adding more and more trainings so that patients are getting the support that they need.
So before you had your loss, did you know anybody else who had been through loss or like did you know much about? stillbirth?
So no, I didn't you hear of people that have had miscarriages. I definitely have had like individuals that I've known, friends and stuff that have had a miscarriage and even like a what is it, neonatal death. But no, I had never there's nobody that I know in my personal life that had a stillbirth. And you kind of know of it like for me it's like I've heard of the word, but it's never like I've had a doctor talk to me about it or even friends or anybody talk to me about what it is, what gestational age it is, or how it works out. That was like learning about it while going through it.
When you found out that she no longer had a heartbeat, did they prepare you at all for what it was going to be like delivering a stillborn baby?
No, no, we really didn't. Yeah, no, it was very just like, let's try to make you as comfortable as possible physically. That's really where a lot of the support was just physical. So, which I kind of get because I mean, I feel like with a midwife, they do a little bit more than just the physical stuff, but I can see why the OB would just be like prioritizing my physical health at this point to make sure that nothing else happens to me because, there's a reason why she passed. And so then they have to kind of contemplate if it's something major going on with me internally that they have to also address.
Right, yeah, that makes sense. I was just curious because when I had Jasmine, they kind of, said a little bit to me like, well, she may look different or she may, things like that. But I just think that nothing can really truly
Prepare.
prepare you for that moment.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed. I think the only thing that they said was like obviously that we could have her with us as long as we wanted, that they would bring in a cuddle cot that they had. And then my OB was like, I'm gonna handpick nurses that I want to be with you. So that's how I was able to have Leslie with me all like the whole time that I was there. So, but other than that, no, we really didn't hear too much about like how she was going to look or how it was going to be. But they did say like if we need anything or if we want to talk about anything that they would be available for me to do that.
Did you find like going through the postpartum hard?
Oh my God, my postpartum was very a part of it was really stressful. I had hired before I knew my baby had passed, I had hired a postpartum doula to help me because I had a they're 15 months apart. So I had like a two almost a 2-year-old. And well, I guess that's not almost like a year and a half. It's a year and a half year old. So I had a postpartum doula that I hired to help me because my mom wasn't able to like stay and Maylene is one of five. So I when Maylene passed, I informed the doula that I still wanted to keep her services because a doula helps mom, not so much baby. So I felt like, especially the C-section, she could still be of use with helping with my toddler and helping just with because at that time I had a 3-year old almost turning 4 that's on the spectrum and special needs. So, but this doula was terrible. She, I think she was more in like birth work to make easy money, quote unquote, than to actually be supportive. So she breached her contract. Like she said she'd be available and then she wouldn't be available. She said that she's available like day and night, but then she didn't want to come to my house before 9 a.m., which, with a toddler, like toddlers are up at 7. I'm going to need to get her out of the crib, get her into the high chair for breakfast. That's all lifting. And then in her contract, she said she wouldn't drive me around, but she would ride in the car. So I felt like, okay, great. I can ride in the car. If she starts noticing that I'm off, she can help me make sure I get pulled over, keep the kids busy or whatever, help get them in the car seat, all that stuff. But then she started saying, no, I don't do that. She started saying like she only works at 9 to 12. And it's like, ugh, well, so I tried to cancel the contract before she even started working. She wouldn't return my deposit. Then she started telling me that I was being unreasonable because I was grieving and I was taking my grief out on her. She served me with a cease and desist because I wrote a bad review. So just all things that it's like, why, like as a doula, were just appalling. So I had to deal with that in my postpartum. That was like, she served me the cease and desist 4 weeks after my daughter had died and I had birthed her.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it was just, so that was stressful. My parents, I love, I have a, we, I love my parents. At the same time, though, I do acknowledge that they aren't the support that I need. So like they were only, my mom only wanted to be here for 10 days. And she was very clear, like she was not staying longer than 10 days. And I even told her, I was like, I really need you to stay longer. Like, this is the worst experience and I just need your support. You're my mom. And she flat out was like, no, I need to go home. I have my dogs to take care of. So that really hurt just on a lot of levels. That hurt, like, obviously with our relationship, emotionally, mentally, just like spiritually, a lot of things. So it was just, so I had to deal with a lot of trauma just outside of my daughter and all of that. So it was a tough postpartum, dealing with the grief and then dealing with a lot of like abandonment and stress.
Oh, on
Um,
top of all of that.
yeah, yeah. So
And
it was,
then trying to physically recover from a C-section.
yes, it was my first C-section, which is also really hard to like just talk about, just because it's like if I had had one C-section before, the what ifs, what if? But yes, so I'd never dealt with a C-section before and dealing with all of that and not being able to, be my usual mobile self. I've had like my biological father was abusive, so I have like a hyper independence. So it was already really hard to admit like, hey, I need help and to be in a space where I will accept help. And then when I actually did reach out to have two people that are one in a like a it's their job, you pay them to do it, and another who it's their job as a mom to do it, to both say no, I'm not going to help you. It was really hard.
Well, that makes you not want to ask for help again.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, I'm so sorry that happened.
Thank you. Yeah, I love my mom, but I have to just, I'm not willing or able to, like, wanting to cut her off, so to speak. So it's just I've gotten to the point now where it's like I recognize her limitations and I just have to keep my expectation at that.
Yeah. And sometimes that's really hard to learn
Yeah.
because we want more from them. And then it takes
Yeah.
a while to realize we won't ever get that from them.
Right. Right. Yes.
But then did you find that there were other things that helped you get through your grief?
Yeah, so that's actually, my doctor had said, like, I went into therapy, which was really helpful. And my therapist did say, like, you should pick up a hobby or spend more time on a hobby. I never had a hobby before. Like I've always been doing something where I really didn't have time to develop a skill, I guess. So like I was in school and was like 100% in school and got my master's and all of that and then went straight from that to being a mom and devoted like all my time and energy and loved it to were just 100% mom. So the therapist said you should do that and I was kind of like, what should I do? Like what hobby should I have? And that's when I found crocheting with the little like kits where you can make a little toy. And so I learned to crochet. That's really helped with my anxiety and my depression. And then it also helps just with a lot of healing because I make them now for other families. And it's comforting to know you're not alone and to get to know all of it's almost like when you go to the park as a mom and you make friends for your kids. I feel like I'm helping Maylene make friends and she's got a lot of really special friends.
I love that so much. I feel that way about Jasmine too. I feel like they're all playing together and
Yes.
keeping each other company until we get to see them again.
Yes, agreed.
So, if you were going to give advice to someone who is newly going through loss, what would that be?
I guess has helped me the most is understanding that I will never go back. So I think oftentimes when we experience trauma, we think like this will pass and I'll be able to go back to my normal self and my normal routine soon. And most trauma, it can be like that. I'll be able to recover from this and kind of get back to where I was. But with losing a child, y- you that I feel like is an actual physical change and you won't be able to go back. So I know it helped me process a lot of stuff when I stopped looking at like when will this be over or when will I be able to go back to how I used to be where I could go out and I could be happier or not cry at random stuff. And when I realized that it's like that will never be, I will never be like that again. This is who I am now. And just understanding who I am now and that this person will be the person I remain into the future has helped me tremendously. And it's helped me just to be understanding that about myself has helped me be able to communicate that to my friends and family so that I personally don't hear a lot of like, you know, when are you gonna kind of like I've never had when are you gonna get over this or it's been a long time now because when this happened and I realized that it was kind of like that's just how I'm gonna be now and I'm gonna communicate that to people. So when people ask am I okay or how I am, I say I will tell them if I'm okay or if I'm not okay or if I'm having a hard time. And I've even said to people like, "Hey, I'm gonna cry while we're together. So I hope that's okay. Like I hope you know that that's just part of this now and doesn't mean I'm not having fun, doesn't mean that we're not like it's nothing to do with you and everything to do with just missing my baby and having to just process that. And I will continue to process that. And then the other thing it helped me to do is realize like this is since this is who I am now, then I'm just gonna make Maylene a part of all of that too, where I, if they're not going to talk about her, I'll talk about her. And that helps me in my healing. I don't need to wait for someone to ask me about her. Yes, I love it. I do love it. And I have told people before because I've had some people like they've asked a question and it's kind of come up and I've mentioned Maylene because I won't avoid mentioning her. If the topic naturally turns to her, I will talk about her. So, and I've had somebody say like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to bring that up and have you talk." And it's like, "No, no, no. I really love talking about her. So if it comes up in conversation, you don't need to worry. It's I enjoy this topic." And I even had a friend say, "Wow, thank you so much for telling me that. Now I know in the future I don't have to worry about." Because I do think a lot of people I don't think a lot of people are malicious. I think a lot of people are trying to be comforting. They just don't know how to do it. So that's really helped me, just being open in my communication with people and telling them that this is how I'm going to do it and this is how you can support and understanding that this is the new person that I am.
I think that's great advice. I think it's hard for a lot of us to speak up about how we're feeling or what we need. Sometimes we don't know what we need. But I think
Yeah.
just like you said, telling people like, hey, I might cry today, but that's just part of it. And I still want to go out and do things and be with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, because I do feel like a lot of people will say like, "Well, I didn't want to invite you. I wasn't sure if you'd be up to it." And they don't realize like that hurts more than if you just invited and I just said, "Hey, like it might be a little weird, but I do want to do this."
Right. Because then
Or
you
I
feel
might,
like abandoned and
yeah,
forgotten.
yes, yeah, and it's all again. I don't think anyone's malicious. I think they're all trying to do it to be comforting. So it's like, okay, well, I respect you in that, and let me just show you this is how we can comfort somebody in a different way.
So how did you know that you were ready to try again after your loss?
So I hate saying this, got pregnant by accident. I I hope I'm not offending. I'm not trying to be rude. Because I don't have infertility issues. I think what happened with Maylene was it was a reaction to COVID. I had COVID while I was pregnant. So that's the only odd thing that happened in my pregnancy. And because some of the reactions you can have to COVID are blood flow issues, I think that that's what happened. So Maylene was a surprise, and now my rainbow baby was a surprise. So we just fell pregnant. So I was not ready. I had planned it out differently. I wanted to be at least a year out from Maylene's birth, and I wanted to try because I wanted to have a boy and just make this pregnancy so different from Maylene, as different as I could, but it just didn't work out that way. So I got pregnant in January in January, and it was very shocking. I had never had implantation bleeding before, so I thought I was having my period, but I had bled for almost not heavy bleeding, but bleeding for like three, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and I was like, this is really odd. So then I took a pregnancy test and it was positive. And of course, because I've never had implantation bleeding before, I was like, oh my God, I'm miscarrying. And that was a whole new, I guess, devastation because I had never miscarried before. And I'd never had, and I was like, oh my God, what's happening to my body where now I'm having all of these issues? But it wasn't. When I went to the doctor, they confirmed with like my levels and all of that it was a pregnancy. Obviously, it was a viable pregnancy that went all the way to term. It was just, I guess, from the C-section, the implantation bleeding.
What a whirlwind of emotions there.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think it was one of your videos, but I felt like, oh my gosh, this is exactly how it is because I think I took like 15 pregnancy tests. Like it was just like, I don't believe, to the point where I went to the grocery store and I had gotten like three different brands. And the lady gave me this look, and I was like, I just have trust issues. I was like, I don't. And she was
Hey,
like,
like, don't judge me,
yes,
cashier.
yes, because it was like maybe this brand isn't as sensitive. You know what I mean? Or so. And then I even called my. So I had a midwife through the hospital, but I had another midwife with another baby when I had a home birth. And I was like, because one of the pregnancy tests, the first one I took, the line to me was very, what is it? Like not very clear. It wasn't bright. It looked like it wasn't there to me. So I sent her a picture of it and she was like, "No, that's a really visible line." So, so I was like, she's like, "Usually when someone does has this text with me, I have to like squint, I have to enlarge the photo and see." She's like, "I can see the line." And I was like, "Okay." For me, they're usually like really bright. And so, but so yes, it was very like, and then, you every time you go to the bathroom or you don't want to go to the bathroom because you're afraid of what you're going to see. So it was like that. But I was, because of my history and because I know the staff really well, they did see me at 7 weeks, which is not usually how they do it, which is also an issue. But they saw me at 7 weeks. We had a heartbeat at 7 weeks, but still, until you feel the baby move, it's very stressful. And then I had an anterior placenta, first time for that as well. So I didn't feel her move until about 20 or 21 weeks. And then she never was consistent. I got the Count the Kicks app, because after you have one, you do all this research. And so I got the Count the Kicks app and I was like, I'm gonna know her kicks because maybe I missed something with Maylene. I wasn't careful with my diet. So like I did have caffeine. Maybe I wasn't counting her kicks properly with caffeine. You know what I mean? All the things that could affect kicks. So got the app and I swear to you, I never had a consistent read on it. So I mean, I went to the hospital twice because it felt like she was off. And I never had a hard time from them. No guilt in going. That's what they're there for. But this rainbow baby was kind of like a very stressful pregnancy, in addition to just the stresses of having a pregnancy after you've lost a baby.
He just wanted to keep you on your toes, apparently.
Yes, yes. She does now, even still. Like it's almost like she's like, hey, I hate to say it like this, but almost like she's like, hey, you need to calm down. Like, because like when she came out, she needed the NICU. And that's a new experience for me. Never had that. And then when we brought her home, the poor thing only would sleep on her belly. We could not get her to sleep on her back. And that opens up all those SID issues
Mhm.
and all of that. So it was just like, seriously? Like, just even, which she's just been a ray of sunshine and just been so healing for all of us. But at the same time, it's like, come on, babe, can you just, do it when you get bigger? But for right now,
Like,
good.
please work with me. I can't handle this anxiety right now.
Yes,
I know, I swear it seems like you always have the one that wants to test you, right?
yes, yeah.
So since you said the term rainbow baby, do you like that term or do you prefer
Yeah,
another term?
I do like the term, but I've never looked at like Maylene like a storm. I just looked at like my life without her as a storm. So I've never. I know that some people have an issue, like that's where the issue lies, is like, oh, my baby is in a storm. So that's why I've always understood that meaning to be the, the rainbow after the storm. So I guess in my mind, I never thought of it like the baby is, so it didn't trigger me, I guess. Long story short, it didn't
Yeah.
trigger me.
Yeah, that's
Um,
how I feel about it too.
yeah. So, and then plus I do love the biblical story of the rainbow with Job. I think Job, especially for, I know he can also be problematic for a lot of people, but I love how God was there for Job. And yes, he was tested, but I do think like that's important for integrity purposes. If you follow the whole biblical themes and all of that. But I love the promise of Job that with restoring it. I love the Noah's Ark with the rainbow, that promise of I'm never like of this new beginning and all of that tying together. So it's for a lot of reasons, it's a comforting and endearing term for me.
And you also participated in the rainbow skirt, right?
Yes, I love that.
How was
Thank you
that
so much.
experience for you?
It was great. I love like you've made the whole process so easy. I don't know how you do it. You are amazing.
Well, thank you.
Um and so it was just an easy process to get on board. You made it easy to tell my story, which was hard to tell. And then the way it shipped and the way you ship it out, it was a wonderful experience. And then the skirt is so beautiful and it's like it's so versatile. So it works with no matter what you're doing. So you don't like, and I love that you don't have to be pregnant. And I love like, or if you are, I love how you can just add it to what you're already doing. And then it's also so, I guess it's really comforting to be a part of a community and to be with other women that have experienced this journey and that share these beautiful moments of just healing and including our babies with us as we grow.
Yeah, I just love seeing how everybody's pictures come out so differently, but it's the same skirt.
Yes. Yeah. Like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Yeah, exactly. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share or add?
I do like to, especially because of everything that happened with my rainbow baby. My biggest thing with all of this obviously is like do your research, but you have to be your own advocate. Yes, we like hope that hospitals and doctors will be like how I had with Maylene, where they are treating you as an equal, they're respecting you in your decisions, they're comforting you and being the filling the need and providing you with just amazing care. But that's rare, unfortunately. And with my rainbow baby, I had to fight for her. I had to argue and advocate for her with her pediatrician, not the one that we picked, but the one that the hospital assigned, because he didn't want to transfer her to the NICU. And I've talked about it a little bit before on like my page, but that's that's our right as moms, as patients. You make the final decision what you're going to do with your body and with your care. And I hope that whoever, like loss or not, whoever listens, whoever is pregnant, that you know that the squeaky wheel gets the oil. And when you stand up for yourself and you stay informed and you have informed discussions and you hold your ground, I find that doctors meet you there. And I find that they're less likely to bully, fear tactic, or just steamroll somebody who is firm in their, whether it's their decision, their thought on something, their question, whatever it may be. And know that there are ways if you have a doctor that's difficult. Like for instance, with my rainbow baby, my doctor was leaving the hospital. She wasn't breathing. She wasn't breathing right. She was breathing at 100 breaths per minute. It should be 40 or less. And he was like, "No, she's fine. She's fine. She's fine." She had been doing that since she was born. We're 8 hours later. Nothing he was doing was improving that. And that hospital didn't have a NICU. So they didn't have the machinery that they needed. And so he would not talk to me about that, though. He was trying to avoid that topic. He's trying to talk to me about breastfeeding. He's trying to talk to me about taking her home and making sure our dog was okay with her, like just obnoxious stuff. And it was like, if I have to continually redirect this person, I don't want them overseeing my child. So I told him that he needed to get a second opinion. And he was like, I can call somebody. I was like, no, 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 no. I need another doctor to look at my baby. I don't trust what you're doing. You won't answer my questions. He even said that he didn't want to talk to me anymore because, quote, women don't think good or well. Women don't think well. So it was
What?
just, he was like, I'm going to talk to dad because women don't think well. And it was like, okay, no, we're done. And when we did get another doctor involved, they transferred her and she was in the NICU for 2 weeks. Like, so I, it wasn't that I was right, but because I didn't know what she needed. I just knew that what they were doing wasn't enough. And so, and that's what I like to, like when I talk to people that are pregnant, like there was somebody that was pregnant and she was talking about fetal movements and all that stuff. It's like you have to you have to trust you have to trust your gut. And you know your body the best. And if something's not right, that you don't have to take the first answer. And nor should you. If the answer they're giving you is not matching with the symptoms, with the evidence that you have every right to say this isn't adding up and I need to talk to somebody else, or I need a second opinion, or we need to be doing something more because this isn't right. Because in the end, you know, the they're human. They make mistakes. And unfortunately, and the way that all of it's set up though, is that he's not really liable if he makes a huge mistake. It's hard to sue. It's hard to prove negligence. It's hard to do all of that. And he gets to go on and live his life and do this to somebody else. So just that's I guess what I've learned from this experience with Lucy, with my rainbow baby, and with just being an advocate for yourself through all of it, through the stillbirth, through the NICU, is that you're in charge of your care. And if a doctor is not providing you good care, you don't have to stay with that doctor. Your insurance will cover somebody else, and you're all the better for it because then you're getting somebody who cares about you and who's going to do the job properly.
And yeah, and getting all your questions answered. And
Yes.
yeah, I think sometimes we forget that we can switch doctors.
Yes. Yeah. Especially when you're in like the emergency room or you're in your OB practice and you're kind of at late stages or whatever it may be, like you're in charge of your care up until the very end of your life. You're in charge of your care.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate this time to talk about my baby and to share a little bit more.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing your story with us. You touched on so many important things that many lost moms deal with. The postpartum period after loss can be really hard, not only emotionally, but physically and even socially as well. We go through the same postpartum as someone who has given birth to a healthy baby, but we have no baby to make it better. Many of us still deal with milk coming in, hormones fluctuating, and other postpartum issues. Except now, we also have to add in a giant layer of grief on top of it. Plus, if our family and friends abandon us in our time of intense grief, it all just seems to pile on. So if you know someone who has gone through a loss or who is going through infertility, please check in on them during this extremely hard and vulnerable time. We truly need that support and that comfort. Being silent or saying and doing nothing is worse than saying the wrong thing or doing the wrong thing. All you have to do is let us know you are there if we need you. Sit with us, cry with us, acknowledge our grief. It truly is the best thing you can do for someone who is going through infertility or who has lost a baby. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. If you like the show, please take a moment to leave a positive review or rating on Apple or Spotify. Thank you so much for tuning in, and remember, we are all in this together.